Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to another Road to the Apocalypse. I wasn't feeling super yesterday, still a little under the weather, but feel good enough today. We're going to come on and take a look at the roadmap. So I'm on deadlinger.com, click on the roadmap link, and we are way down, getting near the bottom of the Survivor gameplay. Where did we leave off yesterday? Oh, here's a couple things. Let's see. Yeah, we talked about progression and leveling. So it actually just leaves a few items left in the character survivor development category. So that's awesome. So let's talk a little bit about horror. We could probably wrap a couple things into this because there's no progress on them. Yeah, we can just nail this out today. Okay, let's talk about horror. So the Dead Linger is a horror survival, not simply survival. At the core, the zombies are terrifying and will remain so. We will be improving the horrific sounds of nightfall, the ambiance of an abandoned school, and the dripping faucets of an empty house. Empty enough anyway. The feeling of dread will become all too real before we're done. The fear and isolation will soon leave you the same way the zombies have left the world, hollow, clinging to the bitter morsels of life. Because it ain't that way now. No, it's not terrifying in the least. The only thing that's terrifying until you decide to equip a shotgun and just kind of make sure you aim down the barrel and just kind of blast your way through a few of them, it's really not that terrifying. But they're right, though. Definitely needs sound. More sounds than they have. I mean, they have footsteps. They have doors that creak. You know, some of that is there. I definitely remember the first time running through a house at night when it was dark and my flashlight going out. And you see it start to flicker. Yeah, that was creepy because then I was like, oh, it's dark. That had an amount of creep factor to it. Looking outside, like from up in the towers of the prison, and you look out and there's just all these zombies lined up against the walls and stuff, the fences that surround the prison, or just knowing that you got to cross a field that has a whole bunch of zombies, and as soon as you run through it, they're all going to turn and start shuffling towards you. It does have a creep factor associated with it. The things right now that prevent that from being scary is the fact that, there are no death penalties, your equipment is with you when you die. So I'm not trying to say that's bad. It's just that, at some point is not scary because you're just like, whatever. But yeah, one of the things though is the sound to help add with that, because there was a video that we posted in their Twitter feed, and you might have to go and dig it up. It really showed how sound plays a big part of the game, because what this gentleman did was he filmed himself kind of playing through some different parts of the game, and he said he replaced all the sound. And some of the sounds he included was like you could hear yourself breathing, kind of panting heavily after you went running. Your heartbeat, it's like when there was moments that were tense, you could kind of hear your heartbeat. It was just, I don't know, it was just done in such a way that, yeah, it made you feel like that's how the game should be always. So in its current state, the horror part is not quite as there, but as a plan, I think sound will add quite a bit. Yeah, faucet sound, all those things that sound creepy will definitely add a lot to the ambiance that they so really need to give it that horror feeling. Because right now, it's just survival. The horror part's not really there. Probably some things that will add to that is when they start to add the gore and dismemberment that they've talked about. That's a different kind of horror. That's, the slasher, gory type of horror. But it will add that, like, oh boy, these things are evil kind of feel to it. Plus, it gives you hope too that if they talk about an abandoned school, the creep factor sometimes is just in the locations that you go to. It really gets you thinking like, oh my goodness, how sad. I remember watching The Walking Dead. I'm not going to give anything away. I know I compare a lot of times this to things I've seen in The Walking Dead. But let me say this though. Can you imagine how terrible you would feel or how creepy it would be if you went to a hospital in the game, because I think at some point they're going to have hospitals, but if you went to a hospital and you went through the different floors of that hospital and you went to the baby ward, how sad and depressing would that be? They had a shot, like I went scouring the internet for pictures, and I think if you go back and if you can find their old Kickstarter page, they had some concept art, and one of the concept art was of like a, I don't know, I don't remember if it was an elementary school or a high school, but anything that involves kids, and you don't even have to show anything, but just that potential, for me at least, maybe because I have, I got a kid and we got one on the way, so just thinking about it is like, oh my goodness, that's horrible. So that leads to the ambiance of how scary the world that you live in is, which is, like I said, currently kind of lacking a little bit inside the game, which would definitely lead to telling you, how hopeless the situation is. The hospitals, the schools, all that stuff gone. You're alone. So those are the kinds of things I'm waiting to see and hope they come in. Although I will say, though, there's a difference between horror and creepy. So right now in the game, that, like I said, there's a lot of creepy, like watching zombies crawl through windows. That's creepy because they really do crawl through the windows. They crawl up stuff. Some of the stuff they crawl up onto doesn't make a whole lot of sense because their pathing isn't perfect, and then the creepy factor goes away. Like sometimes they just magically climb up onto the roof, and you're like, how'd they get up there? But yeah, more creepy than horror. Some other things they have going on here for the future. Oh, well, I was going to say horror is 20% right now. All right, so now temperature system. So this feature is currently planned and designed, but there are concerns we have with it. The base idea is that survivors will have to wear clothing to keep warm in the cold or shed clothing to stay cool in the heat. We are concerned that this will force survivors into clothing and item choices they do not prefer as their playstyle. We will address these concerns as we progress. So, okay, there's no progress there yet. I mean, yeah, I haven't seen it, the need to stand near a fire or anything like that. But I would say, you know what, though, honestly, who cares if it forces them into clothing and item choices they don't prefer? Because it's a survival game. I mean, I've seen there was a video on YouTube I saw where, who are they? Like Key and Lat, some comedy guys. They were doing like their version of like a DayZ survival parody. So they show one of the actors. He's all dirty and grungy and grimy. He's got his assault rifle and his overalls and military garb, and he's making his way through this dusty world and broken cars, and he hears like music playing, and as he gets closer he sees somebody all dressed up in tropical clothes, and he's dancing to loud music, and he looks around and he sees the other guy, and he's like, oh hey, come on, it's a party. And then the other guy, who's the diehard survivor, like shoots him and then walks away. He's like, I don't want any part of that. So when you talk about clothing and stuff, who cares what you force them into? Because it's survival. It's going to be up to them. Do I want to wear happy clothes and not worry about being cold? Or am I just going to put on what's available and actually try to survive? Yeah, I might not like the look of that winter jacket that has pink flowers on it, but I'm surviving. So I think they should just go ahead and put the mechanics in and not worry about what people find and what they have to wear, because really at some point, is it really going to matter? There's nobody making more new clothes, so you're just going to have to take what you find. But the temperature system will be good. I mean, that's just one aspect of clothing to keep cold. But more importantly, it'll be nice to actually have a purpose for the fire other than just cooking the meat. Because currently the fire, the way that the light, see, boy, I was just talking about bug fixing. That would be a good bug if they fix where light sources don't emanate past the walls of a house. Anyway, sidetrack. But yeah, because right now the fire, all it does is cook meat and draw zombies. Even if you put it in the middle of a house, they can see it, the light emanate through the walls. So yeah, give us a heat system so we have to stay warm. When they start adding a lot of different weather's effect, it'd be cool if they had the seasons, so you had to worry about snow, the rain that comes and goes, and you have to stay inside to stay warm and build those fires. So beyond just the clothing, there's a lot of things that would help make the world feel a little more realistic, and then worry about your health. And then the third person option. Now we've already seen this, and we have talked about third person. They say no progress has been done. I'd say their progress, the way that they rate things, is probably in the 10%, because it is in the game. Press the F5 key. It's got two different views of third person, but it's broke. I mean, you can pop out and you can run around and see the clothing and items you've equipped, but when you run, you're like stabbing yourself in the head with axes and different things. So it definitely needs a lot of work, but it is in the game. So no progress yet is not accurate, because it is there. Plus, they've said in some of their previous tweets that it is something that they're working on. It's really hard to see if any of that will make it into Build 13. One could hope, if they're talking about it, one could hope it'll go in. But yeah, third person is there. Now, I know that I have seen in some topics people have talked about why they don't like third person, and mostly I've heard that from when you're talking about multiplayer and PvP. Because instead of having to actually peek your head around a corner, you can just go third person, and then your camera will be able to show you what's around the corner. And that all makes sense, and I agree. But like for me, I'm so used to playing third person from a lot of my online role-playing games that's just kind of how I prefer to do things now. Plus, when we talked about needing the sound system, until they have a lot of different sound, stereo sound to hear things, that's one thing I do use as my point of perception in the world. Because just as a person, I have a nice field of view. I have my, your senses, your hearing. You can kind of tell if things are around a corner sometimes, by listening. And those are things you don't have in the game. So third person is a good way to kind of simulate that. So it's there. We'll see how it actually gets fit into the game. All right, well, that's covering 3 different topics for today, so that's pretty good. We'll go ahead and wrap it up there. Enjoy your weekend, everybody, and we will see you next week.